Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Email shtf@topsbunker.com, website topsbunker.com. Don't forget to check the show notes in your podcast player for a link to help support the show, valuable products and gear, and extra info on this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. We got a great show for you. Tonight, we continue our discussion on hunting for your protein during an SHTF Grid-Down situation. This is a topic seldom discussed within the preparedness world, at least not with any realism or truth. Realism, truth. In other words, reality versus fantasy, facts versus hope and desire. Yes, in a grid-down scenario, we will all hope and desire to feed ourselves in the best, most efficient way that we can. We fantasize about being that hunter-gatherer, be it killing a large game animal or scavenging abandoned stores, warehouses, and homes. Some will even attack and rob other survivors of their stockpiles. Sometimes, and more often than not, commit murder in the process. All are forms of hunting and gathering. As preppers, as survivalists, we must stick to the facts when it comes to survival. We have to set aside the fantasy, disregard those romantic daydreams of being the hero that hunts and kills and provides the much-needed protein to their people. Fun to think about, dangerous to believe. Consider this. There are seasoned hunters that go out and hunt for large game like deer and elk, spend the entire week, maybe even the entire season, doing all the right things, perfect strategy, scent control, proven location, only to never even see a single target and ultimately come home empty-handed. This is reality. This is truth. It's happening right now as we speak. This hunting season. Or maybe we'll get lucky and we'll hit a deer with the car on the way out to the woods. Instant meal pre-tenderized. It could happen, right? You never know. But the probability of a first-timer or a rookie game hunter getting a successful kill on day one, week one, during an SHTF Grid-Down situation is very, very low. We're more likely to get shot at by other hunters than take a shot at a deer. This is part 2 of our Hunter-Gatherer series where I talk to my co-host Jeremy about raising that probability much higher so that we can all find success as hunter-gatherers. Let's get to it. Man, I tell you what, I smell like fish right now. Yeah,
nice.
I do. You ever use fish fertilizer?
Well, I don't know about fish fertilizer. I was taught by my great-grandfather about cutting up fish and then putting it at the base of corn, like they used to do. But I've never used fish fertilizer, I don't think.
Yeah, no. It's a dark brown gooey liquid, and it just stinks to high heaven. But it's basically what you just said, but all broken down into a liquid, and sort of.
It sounds like it stinks.
Yeah,
I'm picturing it.
It's like chum for your garden.
Oh, I'm picturing it. Yeah, and now it's in my nose. It's ugh. You can like imagine certain things, and all of a sudden you can like taste it and smell it. It's kind of like tequila for me. I'm not allowed to have tequila, but just the thought of the smell of it just makes me ugh.
I love tequila. Tequila makes the clothes roll off.
No, I turn into the opposite. I'm like a violent hose beast if I have tequila. It's terrible.
I planted my first round of hardneck garlic today, in a 16 square foot bed, and I set it all up with worm castings, with compost. The compost came out great this year. I mean, it's really good, and the dirt, of course, mix it all in. Then I mixed up that fish fertilizer with some water and sprinkle it all in there and got it all nice and gooey and stuff, and let it set. Soak the garlic bulbs, and then planted all of them. There's a ton of them. Let me see. It was 6 times. It was 36. I got 30, well, about 38 actually. I think there's 2 extra little tiny bulbs, but so hopefully those will come out good. And I got some more coming in, Siberian hardneck coming in about 4 or 5 days. I know it's about a week or 2 late in the season, but we only had our first frost. So, I mean, I think it'll be just fine because garlic needs a good hard freezing, like several days worth of freezing.
Right.
To produce, like apple tree. A lot of people don't know this, but apple trees actually need 40 freeze hours a year. Now that's not consecutive, but 40, built up, accumulated freeze hours in order for them to produce fruit the following year. It's
Really?
just, yeah, it's crazy. Just some plants do that. But yeah, all the chickens and the turkeys and the guineas and the dogs, they all wanted to come around because they can smell that fish. They want to be all
gosh.
over. So it's done. I got it all composted in and covered up with straw and some wire mesh and stuff to keep the rascals out. So I guess that's what we're going to be talking about tonight is part 2 of the hunter-gatherer series. And what part of hunting are you interested in tonight?
Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about, and I want to talk about first. It depends on what you're hunting and where you're hunting, but I want to talk about your weapon selection. I love archery, and yes, I do also own a crossbow. And I've said it before, I encourage people who are just getting into hunting, if they're not familiar with it, to learn a rifle first. And if they do so inclined to go into archery, to really, really go in depth with archery, to learn that aspect first before they try to hunt with a bow.
Does crossbow count as archery?
Yeah.
Okay. Not a firearm.
No. So there's some states still that require people who are infirmed, like if they're handicapped or something, or in the elderly, to be able to use a crossbow. But here in North Carolina, you can openly use a crossbow now. And I never saw myself using one. And then I shot one and I was like, dude, that's cool. That's super cool. They have a lot of punch. And it's not to say that my compound bow doesn't. It's just they're both fun and they both have their place. I like my crossbow for a little bit longer shots. It's still a bow technically, but the amount of drop that it has is considerably less than my compound bow. I can confidently make a compound bow myself, a shot, I would say, with good confidence, 60 yards.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
I try to keep anything with my compound bow around 40 yards or less. If I'm going to be able to have supreme confidence that I hit the animal in a good spot and I know it's going to die quickly, I try to keep it 40 yards or less. So I have not shot a recurve in more than 30 years. I would say that.
I can't hit the broadside of a barn with one. I mean, honestly, I'm 50 yards out and I'm just trying to aim because they don't have all the special, what do you call them, sights on them and all. I'm just pointing it in a direction and firing it. And I usually lose about half my arrows when I go out. Now that I'm at a private property, I can usually find them again. But when you're out in the woods and you lose arrows left and right, man.
Yeah, I will say that for a lot of people who, and I tell this to people who are also learning compound bows, I think the number one problem that most people have is they spend too much time aiming. So for me personally, when I'm hunting with a compound bow, and let's just say a deer comes out and I say, you know what, I'm going to shoot that particular deer. First of all, you can't be seen. The movement again is what draws a deer's attention. So number one, I've got 70 pounds. My bow is set at 70 pounds. So I have a draw weight of 70 pounds. So I have to be able to quietly and firmly, with very little motion, muscle 70 pounds back to full draw length, right? And then when I am ready to do that, I quickly put my pin that I need on the actual deer and I do a quick breath and I release. I do not spend a significant amount of time in the draw. If you spend too much time in the draw, then you start to get the shakes and you start to get movement and you start to kind of you kind of start to doubt yourself on your draw, on your shot. So I try to spend as little time in the draw as I can. And for a lot of people who are having issues aiming with a recurve, a lot of people tell you don't aim. And what I mean by that is there's a couple of different ways to shoot your recurve, because some people use the 2-finger method, and that's not necessarily preferred when it comes to hunting. From what I understand about hunting with a recurve, the preferred method, and this again, I imagine it's the person, is 2 fingers under and 1 finger above their nock. The 1 finger above the nock is your stabilization. Your 2 fingers to 3 fingers below the nock are your draw power. So as you're pulling back, I've seen some people that actually use their index finger to actually point where they want to go. And they pull back, and it's a quick pull back, aim, and then release. So I would like to get into recurves, but I don't know. I'm not supremely confident in it yet, so I don't know how deep I want to try to get into it.
Well, and that's what they, I used to watch, and I still do, the Meat Eater show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they did a lot on that bow hunting,
Yeah.
on several different types of bow hunting. And
Mm-hmm.
they pushed over and over and over again that you can't take long shots. You've got to be 100% confident in your gear and
Mm-hmm.
your shot, because if you maim the animal and you don't find it, you're not a hunter. It ain't right what you just did.
Yeah, and that's why I say over and over and over again, if you are inclined to get into archery hunting, which I definitely encourage you to, you got to learn archery first. And archery hunting is so much more technical and so much more challenging than regular rifle hunting. Not to say that rifle hunting is not, a challenge in itself, but hunting with a bow, it's just, man, it brings you back, because I know for me personally, it probably sounds dorky, but I like to actually get out there. And I've stalked down on deer before, bow in hand, and I'm sitting there thinking, if I could go and stand in one spot and go backwards in time and see, one of my ancestors doing that, how cool would that be? You know?
That's right.
So,
as it pertains to preppers, you started this conversation by saying you want to start out with a rifle rather than with a bow because of the more accurate that it can be.
Yeah, and it's in the accuracy, yes, but the assuredness of it. So if you learn your rifle, if you learn your weapon system, regardless of what that weapon system may be, it gives you more confidence going into your shot placement on an actual animal. So we'll start with, say, deer, right? So deer, common hunted animal, lots of meat, lots of uses. For a rifle hunter, and this goes like, this is definitely something that would have to be practiced before, something happens, tragically or whatever in the world. We talk a lot about going into the collapse and all those different things. Knowing the information first and having practiced it and actually executed it a few times before it becomes necessity will put you light years ahead of somebody just winging it, because they thought that it was going to be cool when the world collapses and they go hide out in the woods. So
that's right.
If you're looking at a deer, a typical deer, say whitetail deer, as the deer is standing, and you have that broadside shot. So what that means is you are looking at the profile of the animal, and you can see from one side is its butt, and you can see all the way to the tip of its nose. It's standing sideways. The best shot placement for male and females is if you look at the front quarter or the front legs, at the top of those legs, and you look just to the left where you can actually kind of see the curve of their
You're talking about like the shoulder.
Yeah, their front scapula. If you look and you put your shot placement directly behind that, typically in line with the top of their shoulder, that's almost a guaranteed kill shot. So once it enters into the intercostal space of the ribs and travels through, right there where that bullet's going to enter, hopefully, is the heart. And what you're trying to do is you're either trying to damage the heart, go through the heart, and then out the other side. So you hit them in the heart, you stop the animal. Usually, not always, but usually where it stands. What you're definitely trying to get is a double lung shot. So you have an opening or an entrance wound, and then you have a trauma cavity, and then you have an exit wound on the other side. And if you ever watch hunting videos, especially when it comes to deer hunting, a lot of times you can see the shot and you see the arrow go in, and then you just basically see a fountain of blood on both sides. But I say that to say that when a deer gets shot, either by a rifle or an arrow, you'll see it buck. It'll kick back, and females do the same thing. And they jump up and they do this kind of kick motion. If you see that kick motion, you know pretty much that you've gotten a good shot on the animal. And then because their adrenaline also kicks in, and their adrenal glands are much, much bigger than ours, they'll take off running. I have tracked deer hundreds of yards, and it's not to say that it was a bad shot. It's to say that that particular animal just would not let go.
It was fighting.
And it's instinct, we'll do the same thing. But I'm sitting there in my stand, and I knew 100% that I hit that animal. I waited several minutes to hear the crash, and I'm like, I don't hear a crash yet. What the heck is going on? So I got down, picked up my arrow. It's covered in bubbly blood. And when you see bubbly blood on an arrow, or you see bubbly blood on the ground from where it got hit, that means you have definitely hit the lungs. So it's when the blood comes out and it's oxygenated, it turns bright, bright red. And you start to see these like kind of bubbles in it. And that's from the oxygen that was just it being inside of the actual lung cavity. And then it exited very quickly, and it still had those bubbles from being, oxygenated. So found the arrow and saw the trail, and again, I've talked about it's a skill to follow blood. There are a couple of things that you can do, especially if it's getting late and it's getting dark. I always have a small pump bottle or pump spray bottle of hydrogen peroxide and a black light. And what it does is if you see a spot that you suspect of having blood, you spray it with the hydrogen peroxide and it'll start bubbling up, and you hit it with the black light and you can actually see it glowing. So, and there are sprays out there. It's basically luminol for deer blood.
Yeah, luminol, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
they use that for crime scenes.
Yeah, but hydrogen peroxide is cheap. And,
right.
And getting an easy black light
79 cents at Walmart.
Yeah. And I have a little small spray bottle. I just fill it up and take it out there with me. And I've had to use that a couple times when the tracks getting sparing, because at first the blood will just flow and just rush. But as the adrenaline kicks in and that animal is really moving, the body goes into defense mode, and it kind of restricts that blood flow because the body is trying to repair itself. So I did finally find that particular one. That was one of my harder ones. That was probably 300 yards or more. And the only reason I finally heard the crash is this particular buck tried to jump a fence and was too weak and didn't make it over. So that's where I found him. But I have also shot deer that have gone less than 15 feet and dropped. I've had some that'll just dropped. It just really depends on the animal. And I know that I've said it before also, but a lot of people think that when a deer is eating and its head is down, that's, it's distracted or whatever. It's actually one of the worst times to actually shoot a deer.
Well, it moves the position of the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it protects the heart by the deer's forward, front, its front scapula on its front legs. So it's actually that scapula, as the animal bends down, it extends back a little bit, and it actually protects the heart. And also when a deer's head is down, it's at its most alert. So it's constantly on alert, but as its head is down and it's taking a bite of whatever, they are like hyper alert. And when a lot of times when you watch the videos, you shoot an arrow and the deer's natural instinct is to drop to the ground. And I have seen arrows completely overpass a deer because it dropped 2 inches to get to the ground, and then it launches itself with its hindquarters.
Damn.
So, yeah. Yep. So
yeah, they have like 3D spatial hearing too. Like they hear separately through each ear, and it's like different directional, and it's crazy.
Yeah, they will smell you before they see you, and they will hear you before they smell you. I know that for a fact, because the smallest sounds sometimes will, just scare the piss out of them. We sound like a herd of elephants going through the woods. A deer, unless that deer is just like not on his game that day, you ain't hearing those things. They are so quiet, it's irritating. So, weapon type. So for a rifle, I have not found a single deer between North Carolina to Mississippi that I have not been able to kill with a 5.56 or a 2.23.
Oh, do tell, because all the hunters out there say you cannot hunt with an AR, which shoots a 2.23 or 5.56.
Now, I have hunted with my AR, but my particular weapon that I use for hunting primarily is a bolt action, chambered in 5.56.
Okay. You have more power with it because your barrel is longer.
Actually, well, I mean, you've seen pictures of mine. My barrel is not tremendously long.
16.5?
Ish. It's threaded.
Okay.
It's actually threaded to receive a suppressor. My particular rifle is it's made by Mossberg, and the concept of it is sort of a scout rifle concept. With that being said, I have made some adjustments to it. I have a vortex scope on top, second field of view scope. I've got bipod on it, but I set it up similar to some of the rifles that I used in the Army, and I am supremely confident in my shots. So before I talk about 5.56, 2.23, I will say that it depends on where you're hunting and how far east to west you are. If I was to go into the mountains of North Carolina to hunt, I would not use 5.56 or 2.23.
Altitude change it?
No, the animal size changes.
Oh.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So the deer and elk that are out in the mountains of North Carolina are larger than the deer that we have here. We don't have elk over here, but if you go a few hours to the west, they do have elk. The Tennessee line is kind of like where you start to get bigger deer. And I say I haven't found a deer yet that I haven't been able to kill from here to Mississippi, but that also goes back to shot placement.
Well, and you're still talking about a 2.23 5.56, which is basically a 22, but it's running kinetic energy. It's running a lot harder.
Yep.
But let me ask you this, though. Most prepper survivalists are carrying ARs. Most of them aren't carrying hunting rifles. So can you hunt with an AR?
You can. Technically, yes. In some states, I don't know about every state, but I know here in North Carolina, it doesn't make a difference. You can hunt with an AR in North Carolina.
Yeah, Texas too.
Yeah, there are some states, I think, that you cannot hunt with an AR. I think. I'd have to do some research on that, but I think that's the case. Now, let's talk ammo. Not every 5.56 or 2.23 round is the same. If you have a weapon that is chambered for 2.23, you cannot shoot 5.56. The overpressure would destroy the chamber. If you have a weapon that is chambered in 5.56, you can shoot 2.23. And the difference in the two is literally the tiniest bit of difference, but it's a pressure issue. So the 2.23 rounds that I use are what are called orange tip nozzlers. The round itself has a polymer tip on the end of it. It's orange. And it is a hunting round. And I'm going to tell you, the entrance wound on that last deer that I killed in that video last year, and I had pointed it out, the entrance wound was tiny. And it almost to the point where it sealed itself. The exit wound, however, is devastating. It is freaking devastating.
Tell us why.
Expansion. So these orange tip nozzlers, the polymer point, eventually it breaks away and it caves in on itself, and it takes the tip of the round and it mushrooms out into a star pattern. And as it passes through and it's expanded into that star pattern, it's traveling where the dimension of the actual round, the actual bullet portion has basically doubled in size. And it's got these edges and it's traveling through the deer at, supersonic, speeds. But it's the cavitation that it creates, which is the wound channel, is, it's kind of hard to describe.
I've seen it in slow motion with
Yeah.
the what do they call that? The ballistics gel.
Gels. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it is so wild what happens. This tiny little bullet goes in, and then like the size of like a volleyball area inside the gel is just boom, like explodes outward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. And I'm looking at one right now, and it's just a normal looking 223 round. You wouldn't really think too much of it, but that polymer tip, I'm telling you, a lot of people discount me when I tell them that's what I hunt with. And again, a lot of that does actually go back to shot placement. The video that I put out last year of that buck that I killed that deer on Fort Bragg, and shot it right where I needed to shoot it. And it probably traveled, I don't know, 50, 75 yards, maybe. And when I heard it crash, it almost sounded like he was standing there like, did I just get shot dead? Like,
Right.
Like the deer was trying to figure out what had just happened. And all of the blood was coming out one side. So that entrance wound wasn't huge, but the exit wound was absolutely devastating. So I took off the top of his heart. And because of the amount of trauma on the other side, I did lose a portion of the backstrap. Not much, but a little bit, because there was so much cavitation from that round splintering off. So,
and that's what you want as a hunter. You want a nice, clean kill, fast, humane, as little trauma and emotional trauma as well to the animal as possible, because you're not hunting out of hatred. You're hunting for food gathering.
Yeah, it's out of necessity.
Yeah, and that's harvesting.
Yeah, and that's how I treat hunting even now when times are somewhat normal. But I treat deer hunting and fishing in general as a necessity. So when I treat it like that, it becomes more than just a sport. So now I was taught that many, many years ago as a kid. And all of my kids, they understand the importance of it. So I don't fault, trophy hunters, that it has their, that they have their place. These guys that go out and spend multiple thousands of dollars to get huge rack deer or whatever. Cool. I don't mind killing does. I don't. And if you told me I could only hunt one day and get a trophy buck, or I could hunt 4 days and take 4 doe, I would hunt 4 days and take 4 does any day of the week. Any day of the week.
I mean, it doesn't interest me. I mean, I think it's cool that they got antlers and all that, but it doesn't interest me because I'm not looking for a trophy, and I'm not going to spend extra money, processing it and putting it on the wall. It doesn't matter to me. If I'm going to kill a deer, I'm going to eat it every bit as I possibly can.
Yeah. And that's honestly, and again, I think part of it goes back to the spiritual aspect, not to get too deep into that. But in the Bible, it says that we hold dominion over all creatures of the earth. And I do firmly believe that they were put here for us to consume. That is why they're here. And we have to be able to control those populations like I've talked about before.
That's right. Yeah, I watched a video of some people that were culling chickens. An older guy, he'd been doing it for many, many decades. And he brings them all over in a cage. And the people that were filming this lady, because she was a YouTuber, she said, "Do you mind the other chickens being here watching as you're putting them in the cones and slitting their throats and letting them bleed out and killing them, basically?" And he said, all the animals that we eat and we consume, we have a symbiotic relationship. To me, he said, they almost have an understanding that we're going to give them a healthy, happy life, and they're going to give us nutrition in the end. There doesn't need to be a meanness to it or a negative side of it.
Yeah, no, I think that there's probably some animals that understand their place in the food chain.
That's exactly what he said. He said the exact same thing. He said, I believe in my heart, this is what God tells me, that the animals know this in the end, that this is what their purpose is.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they'll fight you. Chickens are, I've seen some chickens who are like, "Nah, you're not eating me today. Not gonna happen."
Dude, I have no idea how I'm going to harvest these turkeys, man. Yesterday, they was really late before I can get them up on their roost, and turkeys can't see very good in the dark.
Hmm.
So I actually went over and picked up the big tom I got. He's big. He lets me pick him up. And he's so freaking heavy, I can barely even lift him up onto the roost that's like 5 feet in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really, really heavy. I don't know how I'm going to get him up into a cone to harvest them. Do it. I might just shoot him.
I mean, you can. For a tom that big, I would use a 22. But I'll just tell you, one of my grandmas she taught me with chickens, and the same thing with turkeys. If you have a, what's the right word, working relationship with your turkey,
A working
relationship.
You're in good terms.
I mean, I think he probably understands here at the staff meeting coming up that, you're going to start talking about Thanksgiving, but she would call these, and she was so nice to her animals, but she would call the chicken over, and the chicken would literally just crawl up in her lap, and she's sitting there petting it and cuddling it and stroking its head. And she had this finger technique, and she would start at the beak and just kind of bring her finger back and bring her finger back. And while the chicken was sort of mesmerized by that, great massage, she was reaching up with her other hand and under the back of the neck. And as soon as it started to look a little bit sleepy, she'd grab that chicken and literally start swinging it in circles, just swinging its whole body.
Oh, breaking the neck. I've heard of that.
Yep.
There are some countries that don't allow that.
Well, this was super fast. She'd give it a couple of twirls against one tree on one side, against a tree on the other side. And she'd bring it over to the log and whop off its head and let it run around and do its thing. And then she'd do that for a couple of chickens. And all she did really was she had a big pot of boiling water going, and she'd give it a couple of dunks and start pulling feathers, couple of dunks, pulling feathers. And once it was clean, she'd open it up and start, cleaning it out and give it a couple of washes. And that was it. Chicken for dinner. And it's the same thing with turkeys. Turkeys are just oversized, chickens.
And we're going to be harvesting half of our guineas and 2 of the turkeys in about 2 or 3 weeks. So
Nice.
It's going to be a big operation. It's going to be like an assembly line kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. I actually kind of want to see you guys chasing down those guineas. I'd like to see that. I think because they're smart.
No, actually, they're really stupid, but they're probably one of the dumbest animals out there. But they have incredibly good instincts. Like you start to go a tiny bit right, and they're already going left. You go a tiny bit left, and they're 3 feet going right. They can see the future. I think
that's interesting. Maybe they're just playing dumb.
They'll just walk up to a wall and stand there staring at it. Like, what do I do? What do I do now?
Nah, man, that's calling a portal from another dimension.
So anyway, I got you off track again. Where are we at?
So that was deer. Rifle shot again, just behind the front hind quarter of the deer, depending on your angle. I always also for deer, when it comes to rifle and especially bow, I do not encourage anyone to shoot when an animal is quartering away from you, meaning they have slightly turned at an angle. And that can be either you're rear facing or front facing. Now, if you are, and this is only if you are an extremely good shot and you are extremely confident in your shot. I know some hunters that will line up their shot between the bottom of the chin and the bottom of the front facing sternum of the deer, and they'll put a shot dead center into the deer. It's an almost, if you're shooting with a rifle, it's an almost instant kill. However, it's not encouraged because your target area has diminished significantly in size. And if you're doing it with a bow, I encourage no one to do this with a bow because there is too much of a risk of having a bad shot and just injuring the animal versus killing it. My son killed a deer last year on Bragg, and when we started butchering, we actually found an old broadhead inside of it.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, very common.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen videos of deer that a guy culled just because the deer looked. I mean, it looked awful. It wasn't diseased. When he opened it up, there was like 4 or 5 broadheads in this deer's body.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
People, man. Phew, hunters need to be better.
and again, you gotta know archery before you hunt archery. Because I mean, just one bad shot that. I mean, I have seen pictures of here on Fort Bragg of deer walking around, seemingly normal acting, that literally have an arrow sticking out of its ass. And over time, the wound has closed over itself, but it starts to fester. And it's just bad for everybody. I mean,
Yeah, it's not humane at all.
it's not. And you can end up making that animal suffer even more through disease from a festering wound.
So, as a prepper, are we looking at deer and turkey and maybe squirrel as our main food source out in the woods?
For a lot of people, I think that they're going to automatically go for what they know they can do, which is deer. Now let's talk about squirrel and smaller animals real quick. Squirrel is a fine meal. I like squirrel. You can use a pellet gun, a strong enough pellet gun, for a squirrel. Not a BB gun, but an actual high powered air rifle pellet gun. And you can use .177 caliber, for an actual pellet. They have hunting pellets. It would be a little bit easier with a 22 caliber pellet gun. And you can also use a 22 caliber bullet. You can actually use a regular 22 long rifle or short for squirrel hunting and small game hunting. It's extremely effective. I don't encourage anything over a 22 because you're going to lose, the majority of the animal just to, trauma from your bullet.
We have a .177 high powered pellet gun, and it is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hit shots, man, almost near 100 yards at perfect accuracy with this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, we got Christmas coming up, and we're the cool grandparents. Well, not each of, but we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of our granddaughters are getting a pink Red Ryder BB gun, and 2 grandsons are getting the classic old school Red Ryder BB gun. And we also got a couple of actual pellet pistols and some other stuff, and we're going to start teaching them the fundamentals. So
nice.
I got my first gun about that age, but it was an actual gun. I started out with a pellet gun. It was one of the like you got to pump it multiple times. I never had a Red Ryder. I was jealous of the Red Ryders, but then I had that multi-pump one, and I was like, I can kill a lot of things with this thing. So they're ranging between 6 and 10. So the youngest one is 6. That's about, I think I was like maybe 7 or 8 when I got my first gun. So, but yeah, we're starting them off with those. And then let's talk, we talk squirrels. Squirrels are I won't say they're easy, but they're semi-easy. They're chatty little peckerheads is what they are. And they'll sit in a tree and bark at you and wave their tail. It's a great time to pull off a shot because they're going to let you shoot them. You can hunt with a 410. I do need to include that. You can hunt them with a 410. You just got to find all the pellets before you start cooking.
Now, what about if you use a 410, like a 410, and you hit the bowels or anything inside the animal? Can that taint the meat?
It can. And the same thing with a deer. Gut shotting a deer, which just happened recently to a guy I know. He sent me a picture of the deer hanging up next to him, and it was hanging upside down, of course. And I was like, what in the world is coming out of its nose and mouth? And it was stomach matter. And he had gut shot that deer. And I'm like, ugh, dude, wow. That's horrible. So gut shotting it, there's a couple of things that can happen. There's gastric juices that come out of the stomach, bile. If you end up accidentally hitting the colon or the bladder or things like that, all of that explodes, for a lack of a better term, and seeps into the actual meat. If you can get it quickly, get it opened up, get it cleaned out, you can save the meat. But if you go a significant amount of time before you recover that animal and clean it, it can taint a significant amount of the meat depending on how the animal is lying, like on the ground. If you've ever seen a deer that is on its back and its legs are up, that deer is already in rigor mortis. And you can kind of typically tell if an animal has been gut shot. It looks, its belly area looks distended and bloated.
Oh, yeah, gases and stuff.
Yeah. So, and that's the same thing. Even if you have a clean shot, you recover that animal and get those guts out quickly, because as soon as the blood stops flowing and the animal is actually deceased, the gases inside of the stomach don't have anywhere to go. So rather than an animal being able, because animals fart, we do too, but rather than being able to expel that gas, the actual stomach starts to expand and get bigger, and same thing with the intestines and stuff like that. So when I clean a deer, one of the very first things that I do is I have this thing, and it's called a butt out. It literally, this is probably going to sound funky, but it looks like a jagged butt plug. So, it is what it is. You literally insert it into the rectum. You give it a couple of twists, and you start to pull out the actual lower portion of the colon and the bowels. And you pull it out and you pinch it off, and it makes it easier to, when you actually open up that deer, any fecal matter that may have been trapped in those intestines is actually outside already. And it just makes it a little bit easier to clean up.
Right. It has to be said, because we're talking to preppers who might be out in the woods doing this for the first time because they need to feed their family in a grid down type of situation or off grid type of situation or something like that. And they're going to need to know that gutting an animal, cleaning an animal is dirty. It's, I've done rabbits out in the field, and it's quite nasty, man. I mean, it smells, it's stinky, it's not fun.
No. It's an art. And I'll just tell you that if you are one of those people who are just getting into this, or you have this imagination that you're going to run into the woods and you're going to be able to just do this because you've seen a movie, no, man, you need to learn meow. You need to learn right now. And if you don't know how, you can start with YouTube, and that's great. Or you can find someone who's actually experienced. Go and go hunt with someone. Just tell them, hey, can you take me? I don't even want to like shoot an animal right now. I want to watch you. I want to watch what you do, and I want to watch this whole process and find out, can I do it? And B, is it for me? Right. Because I'm going to tell you, when I was a little kid and I killed my first deer, I bawled. And for someone who thinks that they're going to go and live out this fantasy in the woods, and they kill their first animal and they don't know how to handle it emotionally, it might break them off, because watching a deer die it's kind of freaking sad. Like,
yeah, it is.
And like watching a rabbit pass, I remember being, oh my gosh, I don't even know how young I was, shoot a rabbit, and it's still kind of like trying to fight, and you can see the life leave its eyes. That's hardcore living, and a lot of people, I think, especially in this day and age, they don't get it, and we'll go into rabbits here in just a moment. But so we talked about squirrels. So squirrels are super easy to clean, but they're tougher than you think they are. You got to make a small incision up, and this is the way I do it. I make a small incision starting up by the chin, and I make an incision going all the way down towards the intestinal cavity. I actually take my scissors, usually a pair of scissors, and I actually cut the feet off. I cut the feet off on both sides. And then I make an incision starting from my first incision, and I go out to where each paw used to be. I take that same pair of scissors and I cut off the tail. And it's literally just, you're opening up a book, or you basically taking off a sock. You find a starting point and you just start peeling back. I take the feet and I give them to my dogs. I just feed it to them. It's a crunchy snack for them. But the hide on a squirrel, gray squirrels typically, it's actually quite tough. It's a lot tougher than you might think it is. And it's literally, you open it up, You find the abdominal crease, you just open it up and you just clean it out. You just scoop it out. You can just set it to the side. You're not getting a tremendous amount of meat, but the entire animal is covered in muscle. So what I do is I actually collect several squirrels before I, actually prepare a meal, and I put them into a stew pot and just put it on low and simmer it, because you really got to get that gaminess out of there. And some people will actually change the water, a couple of times while they're doing that.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're very gamey. I won't say that they're as gamey as, like, say, a wild rabbit, but they can be very gamey. I've known some people to soak them in buttermilk, or, you put them in that stew pot in water, and you just put it on low, and it just sort of, it starts to break away the muscle and everything, but you change the water a couple of times, and it takes away that gaminess.
Nice.
For dove and other similar birds, you start just up underneath where the beak is on a dove, and a lot of people don't know this. Directly underneath their beak, they have a pouch, and that pouch expands, and that's actually where they store food. The first time I saw it, it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, this thing's diseased. And I looked and I was like, wait a minute, that looks like seed. That's what that is. And I just kind of I took it apart just to look at it. And that's literally where they pack food into. They store it in this little pouch up underneath their beak area.
Yeah, a lot of fowl do that.
Yeah. So, but dove are super easy. If you go and you follow just up underneath that pouch, you can actually just put your fingers on both sides of the breast line, and you just tear it open like a piece of paper. That's how thin these things are with their actual skin. You just tear it open like a piece of paper, and you just kind of work your way back, and you open up, and then you separate the wing portion from the rest of the body cavity, and you just scoop out the bad stuff, and you take out, and it's not even, I think my wallet's bigger than what you're going to get out of a dove.
You're going to need a lot of dove if you're going to feed your family during an SHTF situation.
Yeah, you definitely do need a lot of them. Some people will eat pigeons. I would not eat a pigeon unless I absolutely had to. Now, if I had to, okay, fine. They basically look like overgrown doves, but they are the rats of the air, kind of like crow. Some people actually eat crow, and I'm like, crow to me is kind of like, I don't know, carp, because carp eat everything and anything that...
Yeah, they eat all the trash.
Yeah. Crow are scavengers. They eat the dead. They eat the living. They are... Ugh. I'm good, thanks. But most birds are very, very easy to kill, and most birds are very, very easily to clean, except for turkeys. Turkeys are extremely elusive. I love hunting turkeys.
Okay, so wait, hold on, stop. So you did squirrels with a 22 or a pellet, a .177, or a 410 shotgun if that's what you have. I think that's very reasonable for prepper survivals, because pellet guns are very inexpensive, and so is a 22 rifle. You can get it. You can get an expensive 22 rifle, but you don't need to. Is the point?
Yeah, you don't need to. No.
So you're going to spend $200 for a 22 rifle, and you're going to eat.
Yeah,
simple as that.
Yeah. And again, it also depends on your setup, but I've talked about it before. I actually have, so my 1022 is a backpacker model. It's actually a takedown. It stores in itself, and you can literally put it in a backpack. And
right, you're talking about the Ruger 1022, which is a very versatile rifle that lots of people have. It's probably the most popular one in the world.
And I think you should. I think every prepper, kind of going back to the episode when you guys did, these are the guns that you should have. Everyone should have a Ruger 1022. Everyone should.
Yep.
But the 22 itself, again, it can be used for a lot of different things. I have known people who have killed turkeys with a 22. But that's just because that's how they rolled. Legally in some states, you cannot hunt certain animals with less than a particular type of load. So you cannot hunt turkey with anything less than a 410. So can you hunt turkeys with a 410? Yes. Is it advisable? Not necessarily. It's better with a 12 gauge.
So you're hunting with a BB shot from a 12 gauge shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your shot placement on a turkey?
That depends. If you are hunting with a shotgun, you're wanting to actually shoot for the main portion between where the actual the actual gobble part, the red flappy flap. You're wanting to aim in that general area to hit it in the head, and you're wanting to hit it in the front facing torso. I do know people, and I have hunted turkey with archery, and you're wanting to actually put that arrow into the main body, like actually the main portion of the turkey, to get it over with quickly. But I do know some people who intentionally, and these particular broadheads are made for this, but they're skilled enough to actually cut the head off of the turkey. So
that's a hell of a shot, man.
Yes, it is.
That's a hell of a shot. Now, I know turkey necks are big and thick, but wow, that's a small, tiny little target, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I mean, with a shotgun, you're pretty much guaranteed to blow its head right off if you're close enough.
Yeah. But the problem with all birds, and this is all birds, but especially turkeys can hear pretty well. Turkeys can see. I mean, their definition of seeing is we can't even imagine it. They could probably watch two fleas getting it on the back of like a farting squirrel 500 meters away.
You went turkey hunting with Mike Waddell, I heard.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I went down there, and it was fun, but it's like they just seem like an unwell bird.
What do you mean?
Turkeys.
Unwell in what way?
Like they got picked last for Jim, kind of.
Dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Really?
Oh, yeah. About a turkey?
Yeah, if you look at a turkey, it seemed like they just, I don't know, they weren't doing a lot.
Dude, it's a big-ass bird. His head changes colors from red to white to blue. He tastes good.
Yeah, he's basically the Toby Keith of turkeys.
They fucking walk around the woods making insane noises.
Well, now you're selling me on it.
Name a better bird. A turkey, that's America's bird, dude.
Tell me more about that nose wiener that they got, or that nose.
It's called a snood.
Okay, bring it up.
I could walk out of this room right now. Okay. And it'd be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that.
Well, first of all.
Yeah, because you talk bad about the America's bird.
Dude, Theo Vaughn is so funny without even trying to be funny.
Yep.
Oh, man.
It was a nice little soundbite. Here, one more. Hold on.
We open the back of the throat
to
check the nasal cavity.
I'm sure there are a lot of solo moose hunters out there. I don't know, man. If a dude kills a little buck.
Hold on.
They'll be like, wow,
where is it?
Kills a little buck.
I've never had an interest in hunting anything that I wasn't going to eat.
A mature mule deer.
The first humans that arrived here.
Oh my God, what happened?
It's an attack of the sound bites.
I've never had an interest in hunting anything.
And so we're like joking.
We open the back
of the
throat. I'm sure there are a lot of solo on this trip we took. I don't know many of them. Like moose hunting is almost out of necessity.
Okay, I don't know. I was clicking them. There's no on/off button on these damn things. I got them all set up, but I put them as meat eater 1, meat eater 2. Instead of putting the actual topic of them, I was going to throw them in as we were talking as little meat eater moments.
Nice.
So let's have one more meat eater moment before you carry on.
You know it's done when those sticks start burning through. These got to be cooked to done. Many miles from here, but in the same state. We were cooking some bear meat once, and a bunch of us got sick from it.
Really?
Got trichinosis. We were eating it raw. I mean, next to raw.
Yeah.
We were joking about getting trichinosis. We're like, yeah, you're going out getting trichinosis. And like, sure enough.
Yeah, so they killed the bear, and they didn't clean it. They didn't cook it long enough. So it's another thing. If you're going to be out there hunting and cooking, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah, so not only does that go back to shot placement and accidentally or unintentionally gut shotting an animal. Animals carry different diseases than we do. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are not transferable to us. But the same kind of parasites that we can get in our gut, they may already have. Like, for instance, wild pigs. Wild pigs and regular pigs on a farm are literally no different. And most feral pigs that you see out there are actually pigs that used to be on a farm. And no matter where they're from, all pigs have worms. Every single one of them. Even the ones that are on the farm that you eat for breakfast, all of them have worms. And a lot of animals, I think there's probably a misconception that these animals in the wild are pristine and healthy and all those things. The majority of them are, yes, but they get diseases too. They do get diseased, and you got to pay attention to what you're doing. So like I've talked about before, if I'm opening up a deer, a lot of people don't mess with the guts. The majority of what I do, I actually do intentionally open up the cavity itself. I pull the stomach out. I want to see what they've been eating. And I want to see if they have, if they have way too much stomach acid going on. I want to look at the liver. I'm going to actually cut the liver open, and I'm going to look at it. If you're looking at a deer's liver, it kind of looks like it has these like porous cavities, not a tremendous amount. But if you do see a tremendous amount of porous cavities inside of a deer's liver, there's probably a good chance that animal has a disease. I'm also looking for worms inside of the liver. And then I check the heart. I'm going to cut the heart in half, and I'm going to check it. And I'm going to look for worms. I'm going to look for any disease sort of markings. I'm going to look for significant damage. Again, that's just for me to verify that the animal itself is generally healthy. I want to make sure that it actually looks healthy from my own eyes.
Yeah, but you have enough experience to know what you're looking for. The average prepper survivalist out there in the SHTF is not going to know jack shit.
No, but if you're only going to be able to do two things, I always say check the liver and check the heart. Those are the two things minimum that you need to check.
And you're looking for something anomalous, something not looking right.
Yeah, and you're looking for something that might, if it stands out to you and you're like, oh my God, what the hell is that? There might be a good chance that something's going on. But the same thing with any squirrels that I kill. I actually make sure I look at them. I make sure that they look healthy. Doves, same thing. Doves can get parasites. Doves can get diseases too. Most animals that we consume can have a whole lot of issues that we don't really think about because you're picking it up at a supermarket. When you're hunting for your own food, you really got to start to learn how to check these things. You know what I mean? So I actually check the bottom of their feet, make sure their hooves are still firm, still look healthy, and to make sure that there's because I don't know if you've ever heard of hookworm. There's a bunch of different types of worms that they can actually get into their body through stepping on them. There's a lot of different things that it comes with time and experience. And that's why I say for preppers and for people who are trying to prepare for the future, the time to learn those things is not after it happened. The time to learn those things is now. I would tell anybody who's wanting to live off grid, get a few reps in first before you put yourself into that lifestyle. Once you start down that path, it is hard to give it up. It is. I started down the hunting path when I was a little kid, but it was ingrained into our family. I come from a military family. That's great and all, but I also come from a family who had been living the lifestyle for generations, at least on my mother's side, going back to the early to mid 1600s. And on my grandfather's side, from her, the Native Americans that they eventually ran into actually here in North Carolina. On my dad's side, the Taínos in Puerto Rico, the natives that lived there before, it's ingrained into my DNA. Unfortunately, it's not to say that it's anyone's fault versus not fault or whatever. That kind of lifestyle is not necessarily as normal as it was in the old days. When we were in high school, it was not uncommon to see somebody with a shotgun or a rifle in their back window. That's because as soon as school was over, they were going out in the woods and they were going to hunt. It's normal for us and our family, but it's not necessarily normal nowadays in a lot of families. And I think it should be, because I have a feeling that it's going to be extremely necessary in our future.
My prepper brothers and sisters, go ahead and brush away Hollywood and fantasy from our conversations. Start with a clean slate and face the truth head on. Here's the part I want you to hold on to, the part that too often gets overlooked in the darker conversations about SHTF and Grid-Down survival. Reality doesn't have to suck. Yes, hunting in the collapse won't be easy. Success rates will plummet, and yes, the hard truth is that many will come home empty-handed. But the hopeful side of that truth, the side we sometimes forget, is that skill can be learned, strategies can be practiced, and resilience is something every one of us already carries. You don't need to be born into this lifestyle. You don't need to be a seasoned backcountry hunter with decades of experience. What you do need is the willingness to learn, adapt, and grow. And if you're listening to this show, you already have that within you. Every step you take today, every skill you sharpen, every moment you spend understanding the land around you, all of it moves you from hoping to survive to planning to thrive. Hunter-gatherers are not defined by how many animals they harvest or how much they found while scavenging. They're defined by their persistence, their patience, and their ability to adapt when everything around them changes. Sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly who we are as prepper survivalists. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.